We are not Sports Censor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Debate Amongst Friends. I am the Professor John Gotti. My co-host over here is Doc Leesner, the podcasting beast, and we're ready to provide you with another fun edition of sports news, analysis, and the reads. Doc, let's get started. Let's talk about some baseball real quick and talk about the decimation, the victimization of the St. Louis Cardinals by the Washington Nationals, a Nationals team that has an extra fire, extra spark heading into these series. And we'll get to that in a moment, though. But Doc, what do you think about the series so far? The Nationals defeated the Cardinals the other day, actually. 8-1 for game 3. So they're now up 3-0 in this series. The Cardinals are one loss away from going fishing.
And that's not what you want to do. And I mean, and we talked about this with the Yankees and Twins, which I said Danny DeVito didn't show up, or I think I said Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't show up in this situation. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Cardinals and why they have failed to show up in this particular series. But
it's just horrible pitching, and their hitting's not anything to scoff at either.
Which
Giovanni Gallegos has an ERA of 27 in this series. Yeah, yikes indeed.
Which typically they're so much better at it. Their bat is so much better than this typically. So I'm not sure what is going on.
This is the playoffs. This is what happens.
As I mentioned to you the other day, it's a case of OBS, October Baseball Syndrome.
I mean, it's almost as bad as the madness. And we don't mean macho, friend.
No, not at all. But, I mean, enough of that series. I know what you really want to talk about. The one that had you staying up late at
I was up until almost 1 a.m. I mean, first of all, let's see, this NLCS end in a 4-0 sweep for the Nationals, for them to make it to the World Series. I think that would be great for the city. Something that the city needed for a long time, because their city was the teams within that city were so ran and mediocre for a long time, that this would be a nice fresh breath of fresh air. And we'll get to the other reason why there was so much hype behind their play. But yes, let's talk about the ALCS. The Yankees fell to the Astros 2-3 for Game 2. Game 3 is actually happening as we speak.
Right now.
I was enjoying, and so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a defensive-minded person. I love watching defense. Like, it gets me going. Yes, offense is great because you get high scores and stuff like that, but the pitching duel that I had the privilege of watching is a testament to what baseball is all about. I had a chance to speak to someone at a bakery yesterday where I was explaining how baseball is like chess. It's all about, getting the advantage. And they were just going back and forth. And like I said, I loved it. The Yankees used a lot of pitchers as we headed into extra innings. So we had Chapman pitch for an inning in the ninth to basically help us, get into extra innings. CC had one at bat for pitching. I mean, we literally had, I think it was like 9 people. Yeah, 10 people pitching for us. So, big kudos to our skipper for spreading it out because it's going to be a long series. And I had a feeling it's going to be a long series. But now, we're back at home. Big kudos to Justin Verlander. I mean, he's still a heck of a starting pitcher in this league.
Absolutely.
People who think that he is done, obviously need to get their eyes checked and probably their brain examined, because he can still, come out there with a great game. Our bats definitely had him shook though. But I mean, he still managed to give the Astros a good solid, 6 2/3 innings of pretty solid pitching with an ERA of 3.12. I mean, that's not bad.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just also think, with the statement about defense, as long as it doesn't get to a point where people are playing not to lose, I think it's all good, But when people start playing not to lose, and you see that a lot in football mostly, but when people start playing not to lose, that's when it just gets to be kind of boring. But it's good to see that the Astros are able to come out and really, I mean, just seal the deal with a big hit at the end.
Yes. Once again, and I think that's more because of how many pitchers we kept shuffling through.
Yeah.
That was more or less the issue because I believe it was like the first pitch ended up being the walk-off actually. So I mean, that's just one of those things we just have to adjust with. It is what it is. That game could have went either way.
Absolutely, but with baseball being the basically the history of American sports being so rich in baseball, you came across something very interesting in our history here, our history of snacks. Not your peanuts or Cracker Jacks.
Yes, and before we get to there, right now it's midway through the fifth. The Astros are up 2-0.
I mean, I didn't want to even throw that out there, but I understand.
We have to give them a live scores, though. It's okay, though.
All right.
But let's talk about this. So we grew up, inner city. We didn't have, we had supermarkets and things like that. But the one thing that we had that we really, really liked, and I think we kind of got spoiled after a while, was the bodegas. Like we really loved just going into a bodega, getting a nice butter roll with a hot chocolate or a tea or a coffee. All that still cost underneath $1. Or getting a nice, good sandwich. I mean, that one bodega off of Water Avenue was delicious. Always had some incredible sandwiches. But
at the same time, I mean, people. I will go on a limb to say people actually don't move out of inner cities like Jersey, where we're from, specifically for those bodegas. Like they'd be like, "What am I supposed to do without a bodega?" And I'd be like, "I mean, there's Fresh Market, there's Teeter, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many other places.
And for those that are enjoying to be lazy, there's also online grocery delivery services such as Shipt. Shipt is a online delivery service that offers premium stores for you to shop at, and it only costs you $99 for 1 year. And as long as your cart is over $35 a month, or $35 an order, then you do not pay any other additional fees. So that is Shipt, SHIPT.com.
And guess what? You can't teach that.
No, we cannot. And somehow we managed to bring in a plug for an unofficial.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send it to. Him. That way we can get some promo codes. For
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really a good product.
I brought it to the doc's attention, and normally when I tell things to Doc, sometimes he's like, Prof, I mean, sometimes you have some pretty good ideas, but you be losing it sometimes with some of these ideas. You might be bugging a little bit, but he tried Shipt and he still uses it to this day. Doc, tell him.
Well, and I'm definitely gonna try to make sure we get this out to Shipt so we can try to get the people some promo codes. That'll be pretty awesome.
I think that'd be awesome, actually. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll try to get that out there so we get some promo codes for y'all. But I'm assuming, and this is just a big assumption, that you got some Little Debbie snack cakes in your shipped order. And in that shipped order, you opened the box and you pulled out your Little Debbie snack cake, which I believe is the fudge round for yourself.
It was the fudge round, yes.
And what did you discover today?
It was the smallest Little Debbie snack I've ever seen. And granted, compared to when the last time I really, really wanted a fudge round, and they were 25 cents.
Right.
They were huge compared to these little bite-sized POSs that we have now. Like it's
I'm not sure
ridiculous. And
that
you charge so much for the quantity / weight per unit within there. It's crazy.
yeah,
Not to mention when the stores actually stock them too, not to cut you off.
sure.
They stock them and they have them available where the shelf life is so small. It's not that large.
And I could just imagine that stores, and I mentioned this off the show, but stores are probably buying them wholesale with these little cakes, and then they're taking them out of the package and charging down 50 cents as opposed to a quarter when we were growing up. And I mean, I used to love me a good nutty bar. I can't even lie to you. A good little oatmeal pie.
It's actually pretty funny. I actually have some nutty bars here too, actually.
Hey, I mean, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But we're gonna call you out, Little Debbie. Give us back our snacks.
I mean, just make it, where what we're paying is worth it.
Agreed.
That's all I ask. That's all we ask. That's it.
Don't cheat us. Don't cheat us. Kind of like, and this is just a quick segue, kind of like the media cheats us out of the WNBA. And we talked about this in the past.
Absolutely.
The media is little Debbieing the WNBA.
I saw what you did there.
I mean, the finals, the finals notification came through, and I was like, what? Did they even play 20 games?
I saw what you did there too.
I feel like the season started in September.
No, it didn't start in September. Actually, I believe it started around Memorial Day, actually.
Which is, I just feel like, come on, give these girls. In May?
They only played 34 games.
They need to up that. That's ridiculous. How can you build a solid league around 34 games? At least make it half the NBA. The NBA is 82. At least give them 41 games. I mean, my goodness.
I mean,
my goodness.
I don't know how to comment on that, so I'm not going to.
I mean, 35 games?
Like, I don't know how to speak on that.
I mean, think about it in terms of this. College basketball is what, 18 to 20 something games?
Not including the tournament. Yep.
You're talking about potentially 10 more games for the professional basketball league for the ladies. Come on, I think the ladies could play at least 50 games.
I agree with you, but it's not up to us to decide, unfortunately. At the end of the day,
it's like whatever.
They're just saying whatever. That's all they're saying, and that's not us saying that. That's the league saying that. And we talked in great detail speaking about the pay diversity and the lack of coverage and the lack of sponsorships and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, getting into the finals, I mean, we had a good series between the Connecticut Sun and the Washington Mystics,
mm-hmm.
in which the Mystics, Washington again, which seems like this might be
that was the segue.
Yeah, outside of the Redskins, I guess, because the Redskins are really stinking it up really bad.
The Redskins did that to the Redskins, though.
They did, but the Mystics were able to come away with the championship, and Washington Mystics forward Emma Messaman actually was named MVP.
Which I had a chance to watch the highlights of this game. I mean, I really enjoyed like old school, team-based basketball where you're running a set, and everyone get a chance to touch the ball, like fundamental basketball. I mean, Tim Duncan was one of my favorite players. Like watching both teams. I mean, nothing to take away from either team, honestly. But
absolutely.
I mean, we're just talking about well-oiled machines, and they're playing, within the U.S. and WNBA. They're playing overseas. They're playing for the Olympics. Like Like they're playing a lot of games, and I don't think they're getting enough credit for their skill sets, in my opinion, of course.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and I just think it needs to be addressed. There needs to be more media coverage. There needs to be more games. I mean, give the girls an opportunity to play and make some money, and so they don't have to go overseas and play. So it's like you play half a year here, then you got to go overseas and play another half year. It's just too much.
Absolutely. And this is also continuing the trend within the WNBA, I believe the last 4 seasons, where the regular season MVP also won the WNBA championships. So that's something that hasn't happened in NBA in a long time.
True.
I believe the
Very
last
true.
time that happened was Steph Curry for his first MVP.
Interesting. And I mean, we know the story and how that was written and how it continues to be written. But hopefully Emma Messerman can continue to lead the Mystics to continued championships.
Well, it's kind of, it was like, for me, it was kind of like watching, the late 90s, early 2000s Spurs with the Twin Towers. Like,
oh yeah, that was a good time.
both Messerman and Delle Donne are incredible players. Incredible players. And Delle Donne was playing with herniated disc and, bad knees. And like, when we keep talking about warriors in sports, and no, not the one in Golden State, stop it, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about people who will still fight to the end because they care so much about the people and she said this during the post-game conference, actually, after game 5 when they won it, looking at the person to the left and the person to the right and let them know, I'm here with you. I'm still ready to fight. Like, that's the type of, that's the type of mindset that influence, not just your team members, not just your coach, not just your franchise, not just your fan base, but an entire, an entire league, an entire, facet within a particular sport. Like, there's a lot of, basketball players who are inspired by players in the WNBA because they don't have all the pizzazz, and all the money thrown at them like the NBA players. But they're still fighting tooth and nail. It's kind of apropos, to make the analysis that, like, it's similar to how things used to be in the NBA, which is how the WNBA is operating right now.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. I think, again, it's just the lack of media coverage, the lack of really everything in the league is why it's not up to, I think, the NBA standards. I don't think it has anything to do with skill. I think it's
nothing to do with skill. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it has everything to do with just the way it's being marketed. It's just not a good look.
The same way we say you should never, sit there and insult someone who plays on the bench for an NBA team and think that they're trash. Don't do this with these WNBA players. Like, they are very, very, they will make you cry in embarrassment. Like, they will take your ankles. They will take your soul. They're so good. Like, don't ask for that smoke. Seriously, don't ask for that smoke. But big congratulations to the Mystics. Hopefully they'll be able to enjoy their off season. But like I said before, they're on to the next one, on to the next way for them to make money because they're not making enough money. And I still think that's something that still needs to be addressed for their off season. And hopefully, we see some changes there. We're not asking for things to happen overnight, but, a little bit goes a long way. Doc hears me say that all the time. Those small victories turn into bigger victories, later on.
Absolutely.
But we will have more after this.
You're listening to Debate Amongst Friends on Anchor FM. Anchor FM is a free and easy-to-use platform where you can record, edit, and post your show right from your phone or computer, and it will be automatically distributed to platforms such as Apple and Google Podcasts. As seasoned podcast personalities, we found Anchor FM to be user-friendly and resourceful, allowing us to create great shows and sound bites on the go. Last but not least, Anchor FM gives you an opportunity to monetize your podcast as they link you with potential sponsors, and you can potentially start making money by recording advertisements just like this. Kickstart your podcasting journey today with Anchor FM by visiting their website at www.anchor.fm, and we look forward to hearing your podcast.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to shift from the hardwood for a moment and get onto the gridiron. We had Tank Bowl happening. We had teams winning their first games, and we have some hot takes. But let's get started with the Tank Bowl. We came into this week, week 6, with 4 teams that didn't win a game. We now only have 2 teams that hasn't won a game this season. And let's talk about those 2 teams who won their games, Doc.
Well,
tell them, Hawk.
So the New York Football Jets actually got a big win over the Dallas Cowboys, who came in. Even we said that. Well, I know I said last week that the Cowboys had to win.
You did say that.
These winnable games. However, the Jets said, we're not just winnable, but we're going to beat them. And they did beat them, which is so shocking to me. I can't believe the Cowboys lost.
Well, and here's the thing, and I'm going to use, this line from my boy Flo, when he was talking about Perfect Legend. You remember this video clip. 3 weeks ago, the Cowboys lost. And we gave them the mic for them to say, you know what, we lost to a pretty good team. We just got to come back, recoup, and then become stronger the next week. But they didn't do that. They still talk smack. They kept saying, oh, well, our offense wasn't really there. And, our defense, our offense is going to be a bright spot, and our defense is for the future. Then week 5 came around, and you lost again. And this time it was because of the run.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And we gave you the mic again for you to sit there and settle the score and clear the year. And we could have just squashed it, and it would have been a big issue. But you chose to once again act arrogant and still say, we had all these injuries and, blah, 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 blah. Y'all could have just said, you know what? Packers, pretty good team. They ran the ball on us. We could take this loss as a learning lesson, and we're moving on to the Jets. Bill Belichick it, but they didn't do that. So then week 6 come around, and yes, Doc and Proc both said that this should be a winnable game for them.
Should have been, yeah.
But they're already celebrating. In fact, they did that the last week actually, and we talked about this. Like, they were celebrating like, this is free. And they came into the Jets game, and the Jets almost put up 30 on them in the first half.
True.
The Cowboys didn't score until the third quarter. The Cowboys, for the second straight game, it didn't really have an offense start. Their offense start until the second half. So now, either no one's talking or everyone's upset that people are dogging on the Cowboys. But it's so apropos and hilarious that they're the ones who caused it.
I feel like they always cause it.
Like, we gave them 2 weeks to take the mic and say, you know what? They were the better team this week. Let's move on to the next week. We identify what we need to do better and move on. Similar to what the Doc would say about the Bucs. If they lost the game and we give Doc the mic.
Which they did.
And we give him the mic, like, he wouldn't be like, James
was running out there for his life.
Like, I'm just saying, like, come on.
No, I get what you're saying.
Like,
I just think that they don't believe that. They don't believe that.
I needed to use the perfect legend analogy because we gave them ample opportunities to do this. Like, this is why there's so many people who don't like the Cowboys. And I'm not saying this to, stir the pot. I'm saying this objectively. Like, just say, okay, the better team beat us this week. Let's get better at it. Did you have injuries? Absolutely. But guess what? This is the NFL, the National Football League. Injuries happen. You want me to tell you what the difference between a good team and a great team? A great team, if there's injuries, the next man always steps up. They always step up. There's no excuses.
I think you're giving the Cowboy fans
And out.
way too much credit. I don't think I've ever really met a humble Cowboys fan, Steelers fan, Patriots fan.
Oh, definitely Patriots fans.
Even
Eagles fans. Yes.
Oh my God. I've never met any humble fans of those particular franchises. So I don't expect anybody to come out and say that. Maybe that's why I don't really take it too personal. And maybe that's why their losses are so big against teams who aren't doing well right now. Like these teams we're talking about, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Titans, the Duke Titans, the Redskins, even the Falcons, who are 1-5, and nobody are really talking about the Falcons being 1-5.
Dropping 5 straight.
Yeah. But I think people talk about the Cowboys because they're supposed to be, quote unquote, America's team. And that was a quote given to them by pretty much a fan.
It was pretty much a fan. And that was back in the 90s. Once again, if we were to say like the Patriots are America's team, like I'd probably be more inclined to agree with it because of the success they've been having, for
Absolutely.
this long of a span.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. But I just think that Cowboys need to, what you're saying, eat humble pie, which I don't think they know how to make or know those ingredients.
That's not gonna happen, no.
Yeah, so
it is nothing to slight them. We're not saying this to make fun of them. We're just saying.
I think we're saying this to make. No.
No, I'm not saying this to make fun of them. I am not making fun of them.
We are deliberately.
You want me to tell you why I'm not making fun of them? Because it's not funny anymore.
Well, some people believe it's funny. Eagles, Redskins, and Giants fans find it hilarious.
They're in the same division, though.
So it's funny out there because of the lack of ingredients, the lack of baking, the lack of refrigerating, and the lack of purchasing the right stuff. They're just not eating the humble pie. And I mean, since you mentioned it, yes, my Bucks did lose 37-26 to the Carolina Panthers. And, I didn't get a chance to watch the game because, I just be so busy on Sundays these days. But we all know Jameis threw 5 interceptions and the world has lost their mind.
Here's the worst part of it. Forget about the 5 interceptions. He still threw for 400 yards. And some of those picks wasn't really his fault.
From what I've heard, I didn't watch any highlights because I didn't want to see that crap.
But the only thing that people keep looking at is he threw the ball 54 times and he threw 5 interceptions and only threw for 1 TD.
Right. I mean, and he still was up for, I think he might have threw the most yards this particular week, or second to most, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But honestly, it just didn't look like statistically a good game. But as I mentioned off the show, only losing by 9 points.
Only losing by 9 points and only rushing for less than 50 yards.
And to be honest with you, I kind of figured it was going to be a struggle game because 2 of our offensive linemen are hurt. But as you mentioned, it should be next man up. And I just believe that we don't have the offensive line depth that I would have wanted us to have. I thought we put in the wrong. Personally, I thought we put in the wrong people. I don't know why we put Walford in there. I thought he was a turnstile when he put his last team that he I don't know why we put a turnstile in at right tackle this week, but we did. So there's nothing we can go there. But I mean, these winless teams and these teams that are low in our ranking from last week, I mean, really nothing has changed.
Nope.
Only thing that may have changed, and I think we did talk about this, was the St. Louis Rams.
We did talk about them. We did.
Who may have fallen off because they have just been giving up so many points. Points for 153.
Yep.
Points against 154.
Yep.
That is so middle of the packish. And
which is ironic because their rankings and defensive efficiency is around middle of the pack.
And that's not the type of things that we're used to. And just to give you a idea, as far as points for, do you know who the number one team is in the NFL for points for?
Who is it?
It will be the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
The second for points for, the Baltimore Ravens. And do you know who is third?
Who is third? Tell them.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Like, just think about this though. Like, just to go back to your Bucks real quick. Y'all lost by 9. Y'all limit McCaffrey, which is huge.
Two times this year.
2 times, yes. Like, and
but you want to know the headlines? The headlines read McCaffrey wrecking the Bucks,
which is untrue, and it's so weird that that's not the right thing to talk about.
That's exactly what it said. It said, "Oh, McCaffrey's out here killing the Bucks," and I'm like, "What are they looking at?" He scored twice. Don't get me wrong, he scored twice, but I didn't. It says right here, McCaffrey, Panthers dominate Jameis, Bucks in London. So I kind of put commas in there to kind of make it seem like they were saying something important. But I mean, those commas didn't matter because it was a 9-point game. And honestly, even if this was a video game, if I got 7 turnovers in a video game, I'm going to get blown out. Or I'm blowing somebody out.
Absolutely.
But I don't know what's going on with the Rams. They just don't seem like the team that was in the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, it could be Super Bowl hangover. We talk about that all the time. I know one analyst was talking about how it's possible that the league finally, figured out Sean McVay and his offense. But you were saying, which I actually agree with, is because they lost so many pieces on defense that it placed such a huge handicap on their ability to be effective.
Because I haven't heard anything about Aaron Donald.
I haven't heard anything about Aaron Donald since the Browns game.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Aaron Donald. And honestly, and I mentioned this, earlier in the season, or maybe it was like last week or a week before last, how every year he's always had someone next to him that kind of absorbed some of those double teams, absorbed some of that internal pressure. Last year he had Ndamukong Suh. I think the year before that he was playing with Robert Quinn, and he was playing with Michael Brockers. And I believe this year, I don't think they have – I know they don't have Quinn because Quinn was traded. I don't believe they have Brockers anymore. I think they may have brought somebody in, but whatever it is just not working, and he is almost obsolete. Delete. Just saying.
And I agree. I mean, and speaking of trades, that happened. I know you found a trade that happened with the Rams. I don't know if it was part of your 2-minute drill, but I mean, since we're talking about it.
And I don't really understand it. To me, this seems like one of those trades that was, locker room kind of deal.
It was. It really was.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Marcus Peters, and people who haven't seen it, Marcus Peters was traded to the Ravens, but it was more for like a young, I don't know if he's a young linebacker.
Yeah,
I've actually never heard of him. His name is Kenny Young. I've never heard of him. I'm hoping that he's going to bring some good talent to LA because they just put Aqib Talib on IR this morning.
Yep.
So now you're losing Marcus Peters. So I'm really not sure what they're doing. So that's 3 people from their secondary linebacker core. And then you add in Ndamukong Suh missing. I think they lost Mark Barron. So, I mean, they lost a lot of pieces from their defense. So I'm not 100% sure what the heck they're doing.
I don't know. I don't know what their game plan is, but, I mean, we're getting towards the trade deadline too. So, I mean, I'm expecting more stuff to happen for teams that are struggling, that's trying to, relight a fire. So, we'll have to see.
Well, speaking of relighting a fire, I know you mentioned the Chiefs off the stream losing the last 2. And we talk about people figuring out, McVay. Have people figured out Mahomes?
I feel like they figured out Andy Reid's offense because everything for the offense flows through Mahomes, which it shouldn't. I mean, he still threw for 273 for 3 TDs, and he threw a pick as well too. So it still wasn't a terrible game, but they really need to establish the running game.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, they have Shady, and while that's well and good, I mean, it's not Philadelphia Shady. We got Damian Williams who can have sparks, but I mean, he only had 1 carry. Like, it's weird. It's like, well, yeah, we want to be balanced, but yeah, just let Patrick Mahomes throw the ball. And it kind of scares me a little bit because this is starting to scream real RG3. And I don't know if you started to notice this a little bit. I mean, it's not, of course, the same caliber athlete, but at the same time, it's like Patrick Mahomes is going to get, driven through the ground at this rate. He was already limping into this game, by the way.
I won't say that it's going to be RG3. If they can keep up the same momentum, I think he can have more of a Russell Wilson.
There you go.
You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Making sure I paused, so but I wonder, and this is a big wonder, if it would have been, or let me rephrase. I wonder how this would be if the Chiefs said, you know what, we understand it's not a good look, but we're going to stick with Kareem Hunt and wait out this suspension. Because he's out. I think he's up for reinstatement, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
One of these next couple of weeks. It might be either this week or next week. He'll be back very soon. Actually, I think he's back week 8.
You said Kareem Hunt?
8. Yeah, I think he'll be back because he's doing an 8-game suspension. So yes. I believe that.
But Kareem Hunt is for the Browns, though, not the Chiefs.
Well, he came from the Chiefs. That's what I'm saying. If he would have stayed with the Chiefs, if the Chiefs wouldn't have let him go, they just wrote him out. Because you think about it, if he gets the suspension, it would have been last season. He would have been pretty much back already if they would have not cut him. But because he was cut and he didn't sign with the Browns until this offseason, of course he has to sit out the 8 games. But if the Chiefs would have just held on to him, because he's a really, really good back.
He's a very good back.
So I'm wondering if they missed that opportunity and they haven't really addressed that. And they're trying to address it with someone like Shady, but as you mentioned, he's not as prominent as he once was.
Yeah, he's not the same dynamic Shady, tearing up the scoreboard and trying to break records.
Exactly. But as far as other teams go, the only team I'm really, really surprised at, 2 teams, honestly. That's the San Francisco 49ers, who I'm sure those fans are pretty happy with their 5-0 start. But another team I'm surprised at, and I think a lot of people wrote them off, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
when they first came in, I think they lost the first game, and Aaron Rodgers didn't say it, but I feel like he was, probably thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Don't you guys remember when I told you guys to RELAX? Like, don't you remember when I did that?" Now he's just, taking interviews in Spanish and throwing touchdowns.
Just doing it to him. Too.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty ridiculous.
So before we end this segment, I brought up the power rankings,
Sure.
the tier list that we use, and we're going to actually create our own, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to create our own. We're going to put it out there on social media, actually. So I think we both will agree that the Green Bay Packers still belong up in the contenders, and does San Francisco go up to Super Bowl contenders as well, or is it still too soon?
I don't know. The defense is playing pretty well. I think Jimmy G has finally removed that tag where it usually states that, New England backups don't usually do well. So, if he can stay healthy, I can't see why not. Richard Sherman's even playing well.
I will agree with that, actually. Richard Sherman is looking like Legion of Boom Sherman.
Yeah, so we can move him up.
All right. What about the Rams? Do we bring them down to trying to make the playoffs club, or only when if they're playing a bad team club? Or do they stay under Super Bowl hopefuls?
I say we move them down one.
Okay. I could agree with that. I could respect that. What about the Cowboys? They're under only when if they're playing a bad team club. Do they go down or up?
I think they still stay because they haven't won since
they haven't beaten a team over 500 this year.
So they have to stay where they are, I guess.
I think the Browns belong in the undercover trash club for now.
Yes, agreed. I don't know what's going on with them,
and the Falcons go under race to be the next Cleveland Browns club.
And I would go on record.
To
say he can go ahead and move my Bucks down to trash.
What? TAS? Wait.
Yeah, you can just
wow.
Move them on down.
I can't wait to do this list. Like, we'll definitely do this list. In fact, we might make this a video.
Sure.
Of us just doing this list. We'll keep the audio for everyone for the podcast, but we'll put it on the YouTube channel.
It might be cool.
Yeah, but I think us doing a tier list like this would be fun.
Oh, absolutely.
But Doc, anything else with the NFL?
Moving the Bengals to I'm a head out. That's it. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they do belong down there. Down there. I mean, if you're a Jets fan, they're going to put the Jets up to Super Bowl contenders after that win, but they need to relax.
Hilarious. But yeah, that's all I got, man. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have more after these words. Do you enjoy getting your hair cut but hate the amount of time it takes for you to sit in the chair, get your hair finished, and get out the door? Well, try out Mobile Barbers. My mobile barber, Rachel Frizzell, has his own website, dfwluxuryconcierge.com, where he will come to your place of employment or your home and offer you a haircut or a shave and a haircut. Of course, at a premium cost, but the luxury of being able to get your hair cut on your time outweighs the hours that you could potentially spend sitting in the barbershop. But once again, check out dfwconcierge.com or check out Shortcut, a mobile app where you can find a mobile barber near you.
Ladies and gentlemen, every show and every week we like to do what's called a 2-minute drill where we go over stories that we didn't cover during the show, but they are still important. My first topic here, a lot of trade rumors as Cam Newton headlines those trade rumors. Future of the Panthers quarterback is now in question. Over to you, Prof.
This week for Borderlands 3, part of their 10-year anniversary, this week will be the Iridium Week, where the Iridium drops are increased for standard enemies all the way up to bosses. The drops actually increases if you're playing under Mayhem mode. The Moxie Iridium slot machines will cost less to play, and there will be a discounted price for items and cosmetic items for Crazy Earl's Iridium shop. Doc?
That Gerald Green may miss the entire season with a broken foot. Over to you, Prof.
And I also want to give a huge endorsement to Basketball Examine. The YouTube channel is actually doing a series where he is exposing a lot of the media members for things that they've been saying that are complete lies and are just trying to fabricate or bring things up for certain propaganda. Doc?
The New England Patriots have actually suspended defensive end Michael Bennett for 1 week for conduct detrimental to the team. It was said that Michael Bennett and his position coach, or a position coach, had philosophical differences. Over to you, Prof.
And finally, legendary Japanese wrestler Jushin Thunder Liger will be wrestling his final wrestling appearance at Wrestle Kingdom 14, January 4th, 2020. He recently had a tremendous bout with Minoru Suzuki that was almost a bloodbath. And at the end of the match, Minoru Suzuki showed respect to the legendary Liger.
And that is all we have for this week. Make sure to tune in next week for another episode of Debate Amongst Friends.
Yay! Oh, thank you.